Hey, what's up, guys? The Ricky Report is back, and so is the promo code at Last Dive Bar. Make sure to use the code RickyBlog at lastdivebar.com for 10% off your next order. We got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming out. Shout out to the boys at Last Dive Bar and also the crew at Oakland 68s for putting on Oakland's Fan Fest. It looked amazing. I'm still out here in Mexico for about another month, and then I'll be back home in the Bay Area. But anyway, shout out. Looked like a great time over there in Prescott Market in Raimondi Park in West Oakland. So today I'm going to focus on the new renderings that were put out last week in the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting for the A's ballpark. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we're just about 2 weeks away from opening day, March 27th. The A's are going to be opening up Seattle, I believe, and then they'll be heading to Sutter Health Park in Sacramento on March 31st for their first home opener. So as far as overall observation goes, we're still waiting on the big deposit from John Fisher. Of course, the A's have to put in the first $100 million for this project to really kickstart it. And they had no mention about the groundbreaking, except for this subtle reference by Ed Finger, who's the Las Vegas Stadium Authority CFO. He made this quick statement at the end of the meeting. Check it out.
Mr. Chair, the pace of development predicts April Earth movement, June foundational work on the project. Our fiscal year, as I mentioned earlier, ends June 30th.
So I think that might be a fancy way of saying this project is on schedule to have an April groundbreaking, but he didn't say definitively, so we'll have to see what happens in the coming weeks with that financials. But the biggest thing here was really that the new renderings were released. But also earlier in this day, the A's announced that they had hired a new team president, Mark Bedane, and Bedane was previously with the Raiders, and he helped them get Allegiant Stadium done in Vegas. So the A's are hoping he can do the same magic in Vegas with their ballpark. The past 3 years, he was actually working with a group called the Oakview Group that was trying to put in an NBA arena. I think they still are, but they're kind of changing their site plans and everything like that. So Mark Bedane was at this meeting, but he actually didn't talk. And another observation, too, is that I noticed there was a lot of union dudes in the background of this meeting, sitting behind the speakers. And yeah, so I hadn't seen that before, but it looks like there's a lot of union dudes here for this. So on to the meeting. It started off with a spirited public remark from Alex Marks. Alex Marks is part of the Nevada State Education Association, and this group is like a teachers union that's behind Strong Public Schools Nevada, Schools Over Stadiums, and also Schools Over Studios, because as he mentions here, not only has Nevada authorized up to $380 million in public funds for John Fisher in this ballpark project, but also most recently they've authorized up to $1.65 billion in funds for Hollywood studios to kind of relocate to Summerlin, I believe, which is a Las Vegas suburb, and they're touting it as Hollywood 2.0. So this is what Alexander Marks had to say.
Good afternoon, Alexander Marks with Schools Over Stadiums. First, while we're busy fighting yet another set of billionaires in Carson City, let me assure you we haven't forgotten about you all and remain fully committed to blocking the use of public funds for this misguided stadium project. Second, I want to provide this body with an update on what's been happening across the state since for the last 2 years you've ignored every economic fact debunking this project. 2 years ago, Governor Lombardo and the legislature handed John Fisher $380 million in public funding. Now, 2 years later, they're attempting to give $1.65 billion in tax cuts to Hollywoods. And what is Governor Lombardo offering our kids? $2. That's right, $2. His current budget increases education funding by just $2 per pupil. Schools Over Stadiums here to call the question on Nevada's priorities. Where has Nevada put our efforts and money while Nevada ranks 48th in the nation with the largest class sizes and highest rate of educator vacancies? Stadiums and studios. We have warned that the stadium project and any like it would drain funds from schools and essential services, and we were right. The governor proposes just $2 per student. Again, $2 per student. But $36 million in transferable tax credits goes to this non-existent stadium this year, and then another $36 million the year after that, and then the year after that, and so forth. There is not a single shovel in the ground, and this project has already cost the taxpayer $36 million. That's millions of dollars that could save hundreds of educator positions and keep CCSD reading centers open, centers that are now slated to close next year due to shortfalls. But nope, a billionaire needed a baseball stadium, and Nevada helped him out and helped him abandon Oakland. Sorry, kids. Perhaps Fisher's family will offer a $700 annual increase in per pupil funding during their teacher appreciation night. That's what Nevada needs to add each year to reach optimal funding. So whether it's schools or stadiums or schools over studios, we won't stop advocating for our kids, our schools, and our public dollars. Public tax dollar giveaways have been debunked economically, morally, and logically, and deep down, you all know that as much as you pretend otherwise. So while you continue to push this project along at the expense of the taxpayer, remember this: while Hollywood executives and John Fishers of the world walk away with billions in taxpayer giveaways, our kids get $2. Thank you.
So even though, Nevada State Education Association has gone 0 for 2 in their efforts against the A's so far and trying to get a, referendum on the ballot and also going through the litigation route, Alex is still out here voicing his concerns, and now they have another, fish to fry with this Hollywood Studios campaign. So after that, we, Steve Hill, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority chairman, he gave Mark Bedane a shout out as well. Before, we kind of jumped into a bunch of Allegiant Stadium stuff for the next 20 minutes. I won't bore you with that. But then we kind of got to the juicy part of the meeting, which was kicked off by Sandy Dean, who, now that Mark Bedane is the team president, Sandy Dean is called the vice chair of the A's. So he talked for a few minutes, and he introduced Bedane and kind of how they're going to work together.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. We've had a lot of meetings where we've gone through some long documents. I think today is going to be a little more fun. And a few things. One, thanks for recognizing Mark Bedane. We're just super pleased that he's agreed to join us. We have a lot to do on our project, and he's going to really be a great addition. And we appreciate him taking on the lead. I can say also, I'm still going to remain involved, and you guys will still see me. So we have enough work for all of us, probably.
And then after that, he wrapped it up with a shout out for the big team that's been working on this project. And he introduced Frankie Sharp, who is the director of sports for the Bjarke Ingels group. It's like one of the big architects that's working on this. And then also Emily Louchart, who is director of interiors for HNTB. And that's another huge architecture firm that is working on this. So Frankie started it off by, kind of talking about their inspiration for this design. They really loved the whole idea of the pendant and this weird abstract art thing with, it looks like cuts in a piece of paper. They meshed those two things together. That's how they got the inspiration for this armadillo roof. And then we get, talking about the roof, Frankie really gets into some detail about it.
So this is an updated rendering from Las Vegas Boulevard. This is a section of the building as it stands right now, so very protective. All the seats and field will be protected from the sun, but still very much allowing views out to the north. So this is a zoom in of that roof. It's actually a system of metal panels. It looks very decorative. The reason for that is that 4 panels kind of stack up on one corner, so you have one connection point. It's a very rational system. But we certainly like the effect that it gives architecturally as well. And then this is the other half of that diagram showing some views out of the Claire stories, those 3 smaller blue arrows at the top, and then one large, very big opening right above the main concourse on the north side of the building, looking out towards the Strip. This is a zoom in of just how that detail kind of works out around the cable net window.
And then after that, we get our first look at kind of updated looks at the exterior and interior. These are the renderings that you've been seeing passed around in the past few weeks. But here's Frankie talking about the new look to the stadium.
This view is actually kind of sitting somewhere close to the Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana Ave corner. So we're kind of looking back southeast from the northwest corner of the site. This is like our main entrance, let's call it, into the building. We have another entrance on the south side as well. But this one certainly feels like the grand entrance coming through the cable net, and Emily can talk more about that in a second. This is a view from home plate down in the lower bowl, looking out. You can see New York there, and the MGM recognizable through the window. And this is just slightly down the first baseline, but in concert mode, how the bowl could transform to host a variety of different events. But of course, still really harnessing the Strip, letting people know where they are, what the place is, and attaching this piece of architecture to its setting and the surroundings.
So I also want to put up, two different sets of renderings. I believe last year, it all kind of blends together, but yeah, last year in 2024, Ace put out their first set of serious renderings. Of course, in 2023, they had these little, AI generated, slapped together real things. And then 2024, they had more realistic renderings. And then 2025, it looks like more refined, maybe what it could look like. So, since 2023 renderings are pretty much just completely bogus, I won't even reference those, but so we'll do some side-by-side look at like the 2025 renderings, the 2024 renderings. And in the 2025, you can obviously see that big athletics thing, the big shiny attraction to grab you. And then also at the bottom, it looks like the main entrance has been completely changed. You can see the escalators going up to the other parts of the stadium. And it looks like they've also removed the little A signs in the outfield. So here's a look at the outside of the stadiums and how it's kind of evolved over the past year. And now we'll take a look at the view from behind home plate. And obviously the biggest difference is that big green stripe, it looks like they were gonna, have that whole strip be a screen or something, I'm not sure. But now it looks like they have a more realistic looking scoreboard in right field. Looks like they'll have a smaller second screen out in left field. And it looks like you have a realistic look of what the second and third decks are going to look like as well. Even though they added all those seats, somehow MGM Grand, the hotel moved, and you can see it now, and it's better. But maybe they just want to give MGM a shout out because their president and CEO, Bill Hornbuckle's been quoted in a couple of press releases, in support of the A's in this project in the past couple years. So another interesting nugget to wrap up his thing is Sharp acknowledges that there's no other building on this lot, and that's because everybody's still waiting on Bally's to see what's happening.
It's probably also a good time to mention that we did these renderings without anything else on site. Maybe that's obvious. There's a lot of ongoing work for site improvements. We're just not showing those today as those continue to develop, but that is something that's worth pointing out right now.
And it doesn't look good for old Bally's. Last week, I think the day before the A's meeting actually, Bally's abruptly canceled their Q4 earnings call, and they announced that they had a 5% drop in revenue from year over year in Q4. So I think when I last looked, there's still $3.3 billion in debt. They have like $170-ish million in cash on hand. So looks pretty dire for them, and canceling an earnings call that abruptly is not a good look. So last week, Bally's shares dropped to about $12, but it's already back to $18. So we'll see what happens. I think the A's, if this ever does get done, I don't think there's going to be anything else around this except maybe a parking lot. And technically, if you want to count, this is the fourth set of renderings that the A's have done, or A's and Bally's have released, because Bally's released this other set of renderings of what it could look like with their resort on it. But again, it came with a huge caveat, as their chairman Soo Kim said, these renderings are not really renderings. So I guess this is round 3.5 in the renderings for this project. So one last thing from Sharp here is that the A's are really pushing the intimacy of this ballpark, and they try to illustrate it with these diagrams that show like the proximity of the second and third decks as compared to other ballparks around the country.
This overall section of the building at the top, at the apex, it's about 290 feet above the field, which is also ground level, site level. That is based on just some research that we had done on playing fly balls, playability for the building, based on best practices in Major League Baseball. And then I'll zoom into a section to just talk more about how the bowl has come together. It's a split lower bowl and a split upper bowl. So what that means is that traditionally in ballparks, and I have some comparisons in a second, the lower bowl is maybe 30 to 40 rows. What we've done is split that in two and separate it. So here you see suites behind home plate, but as you work your way down the lines and out into the outfield, those become general admission spaces. So closer than anywhere else in baseball, you'll be able to walk around the concourse, get your amenities, go to your food and beverage stations, the restrooms, et cetera, and still be connected to the action the whole time. And that's true for the lower concourse, the main concourse, and the upper concourse as well. And we have some images that highlight that. Just for comparison, though, so everybody's aware of how this has come together, in red, you see Fenway Park. And you see what I'm describing about that lower bowl being, exceedingly large in some of the older ballparks. But we did feel a lot of inspiration to how tight it is, how intimate it is, how close those upper decks get, and even the kind of top seats in the building just feel really close to the action. Same with Wrigley and blue in this section. This is a newer example. So in yellow, you see Truist Park in Atlanta. What we're just trying to call out here is that it's incredibly steep. We're pulling those front tiers close to the action. You see how the front rows get closer. Everything is just a more intimate and we think a better fan experience.
Then after that, Frankie Sharp passed the mic over to Emily Luchart, who again is with HNTB. She's the director of interior. So she kind of took us through the different levels of this ballpark and what we can expect inside of it. So first up is the service level, and she's really hyping up the fact that there will be some fan interaction zones, like near the A's clubhouse, and then also down in the bullpens as well.
So when you look at home plate, on either side in that green are the home team and visiting team clubhouses. And we wanted to make sure that we could connect fans to the players. So you'll see that there's a premium opportunity there where people could literally be next to the players. And even in the outfield, I'm really trying to maximize that toes on the turf field experience with social zones there in lots of different ways. And so starting at this, knowing that this is the new home for the A's, starting with their clubhouse, and that mention, as I had said, of making sure that we're connecting the fans to the players. We think about these spaces, these interior environments, and really making sure that there's enhanced food and beverage experiences that are unlike anything other, and making sure that that experience is memorable for all fans. And then even in the outfield is wide view where you're actually on the field in the outfield right next to the fence where you can enjoy that experience and think about that social aspect there. And then on the lower concourse level, so this is right below where Frankie was mentioning that entry point for patrons, is that 20 rows back where all fans can actually be so close to the action. And thinking about that in different seating experiences so that you've got throughout the ballpark 17 plus different seating environments, 9 different social zones and club areas, different group seating products that are in the 20 range, but really trying to think about how you can socialize, get your food and beverage, as well as still be game connected. And then even in the outfield where the bullpens are, we looked at how we could stack those 2 bullpens and really surround that with patron experiences. So there's going to be seats, standing zones, a really social environment, again, while you're still connected to the game itself.
On the main concourse, which is the next level, the big cell here, that'll be, the whole place will kind of be open. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to Golden One Center, but it's not like the old arenas. Like when you go to the concessions, there's kind of like this barrier between the arena and the concessions. It's like whenever you go get food, you feel like you're disconnected from the action. But at Golden One Center, you kind of walk around and it feels like you're kind of part of it the whole time. And you can feel the fan energy, the excitement, and the crowd noise. And that's where she's hyping up about this main concourse level.
Another thing is, as Frankie was mentioning with the seating bowl, of breaking that seating bowl, it allows that whenever you're in the concourse, you always have a view back to the field. So you never leave that game-connected environment, which I think is so key to just making sure that you're always in that lively experience, as well as still getting the amenities, restrooms, food, etc. Throughout the game. You can see every level, and so it really orients you if you're a first time coming to the ballpark. It kind of drops that guard of nervousness of where you're going. That was a really key intentional thing that we thought about in terms of how people circulate and make sure that that's a seamless and really positive experience. So this would be, if you were to look left, you can actually see those escalators. Those escalators take you to each of the levels above main concourse. Again, just making that really an intuitive way to experience the ballpark and get around as a fan. This is at the south entry. Similar, where you enter in, you can see that there's escalators taking you up to the upper concourse. But also you can see off to the left, that's a view. You're actually connected right to the rest of the field, where you can, hear the noise of the crowd and actually experience that. I think what we're so excited about with this building is because it's fully enclosed to make sure there's fan comfort, that actually allows you freedom to do non-traditional things that you might see in a ballpark because you don't have to deal with the indoor-outdoor environment. I think a key thing too, as we looked at each of these phases, was really maximizing the daylight so you still felt like you were outside even though you're inside. So this is a view at that south, so right after you came in from that entry, there's actually this social zone where you can get food and beverage. It's terraced seating where people can stand, hang out. You've got a variety of different seats throughout there with food and beverage amenities, all while you're connected right to the game off to the right there. And then when we think about the main concourse with the food and beverage and restrooms, we spent a lot of time thinking about making sure that those flow really well. It's going to be a lot of fans. You want to make sure that that's seamless food and beverage. As we work through that, we'll make sure that we've provided a framework that can take on the newest technology for food and beverage transactions, as well as any partnerships when we think about different types of food and beverage offerings throughout there. I think too, as we were working through both the exterior, interior together with the building, was making sure that these food and beverage zones actually are deep enough where you can be out of the fray of circulation, where people can still socialize, take a moment to grab food and beverage, and still, again, as you see in that view, you're actually still connected to the game itself. So you're never disconnected from that.
And then after that, we kind of finish it off with a look at the upper levels. And it looks like some fans might be hovering right over the bullpens. So I don't know if they can just pour their beers over the visiting pitchers while they're going or what, but take a look.
Going up a level at the terrace level. Similarly, this is, I think an opportunity where when you think of the outfield, it is the unique area where you can really have a lot of fun with different seating experiences. We wanted to make sure that we casted a wide net of ensuring that there's something for everyone and that you could have a different experience every time you come to the ballpark. So off to the left, you can see those seats around the bullpens. Right in the center, you can see that food and beverage space that's right on the field where you're standing right at the field wall. And then up at the at the main concourse, you can see that glass wall, and people right as they came in at the north are standing right at that entry and able to just look out before they go to their seat. And then going up to the upper concourse, though you can see it makes a U shape, the circulation really makes it a connected 360 environment. So again, there's never a dead end for any patron. It just makes it an easy way to get in and around the ballpark. And similarly, those experiences at that upper concourse, one, as Frankie had shown on those sections, it's not far from the field. You're super close, and the food and beverage amenities are very similar. So have those atrium market-like experiences that still allow for a seamless experience for those fans. And particularly a super fun spot is this off on the right field is this social gathering zone where you can get this great view out into Las Vegas, as well as still have a great view to the field and the ballpark itself.
So that was pretty much it for the presentation. If you want to look at the full video, I posted it a couple of days ago on the channel, so take a look there if you want to look at everything. And I'll also post a link below to the PDF so you can take a look at all the slides and everything at your own pace. So to wrap it up, Sharp reiterated that it'll be 30,000 seats and with 3,000 standing room only seats. And yeah, so that was pretty much it for this ballpark renderings portion. And one more time, here is Ed Finger's whole comment about potential April groundbreaking and June foundational work, and how that'll kickstart funding and all that stuff, and how that'll impact the budget, which ends in May or June. So if they get some stuff done before then, they'll have to account for it on this year's budget. And it's basically just a resolution saying that, hey, we're going to have to amend the budget if that happens.
Mr. Finger, agenda item 8.
Mr. Chair, the pace of development predicts April earth movement, June foundational work on the project. Our fiscal year, as I mentioned earlier, ends June 30th. I referenced the football revenue stream earlier, told you there'd be a baseball revenue stream that showed up later. And I'll remind you from earlier presentations, there's a sports entertainment improvement district that's created on the footprint of this project. It captures taxes and fees generated by it, and that money is used for the public contribution to the ballpark. So with all of that said, we start to get taxable activity through the placement of insurance policies, through the introduction of construction materials and the associated sales tax. So agenda item 8 asks you to augment the fiscal year 2025 budget. When we started this fiscal year, we weren't ready for the pace and didn't have a budget ready for this. And it just allows for the collection of revenue should they be introduced in this fiscal year and the potential expenditure towards the project. You will see this manifest more meaningfully, this being the project and the budget, in the fiscal year 2026 budget that I bring to you in May.
So again, it looks like the biggest thing from Finger is that it looks like we could be looking at an April groundbreaking. So hypothetically, we should hear about this $100 million being invested, I guess, and money being put into irrevocable trust to kickstart this whole project. So it looks like the A's are just going ahead and doing this thing. We just have to go and wait in the coming weeks and see how it goes. So. They put Las Vegas on their patch for the next few years, even though they're going to be in Sacramento, which is weird. But honestly, my biggest takeaway is that this still seems like a sales pitch to investors. It's still, they're still, as far as we know, looking to secure $500 million from private investors. So for right now, they still have, a $1.75 billion budget. But in their last meeting, they said it could rise again. So don't be surprised if it goes closer to $2 billion. But this $1.75 billion budget includes $1.1 billion from the Fisher family, $350 million in commitments from Nevada, $300 million in a private loan from U.S. Bank and Goldman Sachs. So, and again, they're still looking for $500 million. Another thing to keep an eye on, too, is that construction costs for this thing could also be going up. As on Wednesday morning, I record this like a few hours before I recorded this. President Trump just signed a 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum for United States. So, and as far as I know, U.S. relies a lot on Canada, to import its steel and aluminum. So we'll see how that impacts the cost of this project. So, honestly, I don't know. I think it seems like it's kind of too big to fall through at this point. I still think they're going to be short money. However, I think Fisher might have a way out with MLB, and it might have to do with his new reappointment to the MLB, executive committee. So I'll dive into that on my next Ricky Report. Make sure you like and subscribe, and use my code RickyBlog at lastdivebar.com. So yeah, that's it. We got another set of renderings, and and we'll see what happens next with this. But we should, potentially see groundbreaking in the next few weeks. So, I've been really skeptical of this whole thing, but honestly, it looks like this thing's going to go ahead. So, all right, we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned for more Ricky Reports. I'll be back soon. Thanks.